SLT Mobitel, the connection.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය 99.9% දක්වා විනාශ කිරීමට උපකාරී වන සර්ෆ් එක්සෙල් හයිජීන් බූස්ටර්ස්.
Tonight, easing pressure. Home treatment of asymptomatic COVID patients to start from Monday. All-conquering hope. Vaccination program at full throttle as the government tries to bridge 600,000 AstraZeneca shortfall. Incomplete probes. Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira informs that he is unable to present indictments against Easter tax conspirators within his tenure. Performance matters. National cricketers handed new contracts with a pay cut. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Saturday, the 15th of May, 2021.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Ekanaika. Now, calls by health professionals to home treat asymptomatic COVID-19 patients have been recognised by the government. State Minister of Primary Healthcare, Epidemics and COVID Disease Control, Dr. Sudarshini Fernandopoulos, says that a new system geared towards this end will be implemented from Monday. The move is expected to ease pressure on the country's healthcare system as it will ensure that hospital beds only go to symptomatic patients. It is just as well as Sri Lanka had another day of new COVID-19 cases in the excess of 2,000 yesterday.
For almost a week, Sri Lanka's daily COVID-19 caseload continued to exceed 2,000. Yesterday, the epidemiology unit placed the figure at 2,289, with the Colombo district reporting 555 infections. The district of Galle reported the second highest number of new cases with 281, while the Gampaha district confirmed 236 cases. Kurunegala meanwhile recorded 218 infections, while 211 cases of the virus were confirmed from the district of Kalutara, 99 infections from Puttalam, and 79 cases from Matara and Matale. The districts of Kegal and Nuwara confirmed 73 and 71 infections, respectively. A further 367 fresh COVID-19 cases were reported across 14 other districts. Yesterday's caseload also included 20 imported cases as well. As for today, 1,786 new novel coronavirus cases have been confirmed so far.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මේ මෙහෙයුම් මැදිරියේදී වෛද්‍යවරු කණ්ඩායමක් යොදවලා රෝග ලක්ෂණ පෙන්눔 කරන්නේ නැති PCR පොසිටිව් අයව ගෙදරදී නියාමනය කළා යම්කිසි සංකූලතාවයක් එනකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ව රෝහල් පද්ධතියට යොමු කරන්න මේ ආකාරයෙන් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ සියලුම රෝගීන්ට අවශ්‍ය කරන ප්‍රතිකාර උපදෙස් ලබා දීලා ඒ වගේම තමයි සංකූලතා එනවා වහාම හඳුනාගෙන රෝහල්ගත කිරීම සමුදා සිට මේ වැඩපිළිවෙල ආරම්භ කරන්න අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
In the meantime, the country also reported the highest daily COVID-19 related fatalities yesterday with 29. This places the overall figure of deaths at 921. 16 of the victims had died solely due to COVID pneumonia. The remaining 13 victims had suffered from underlying health conditions.
We can see that there are some increased number of deaths reported every day. In between 20 to 30 deaths are reported several days. This can happen because of two things. The one thing is that we are reporting the deaths not on the same day. Some deaths are reported to us sometimes later. The reason is that cause of death is given after the postmortem or an inquest. So it takes time. Only after that we will be able to declare the death. In addition, we can see that when the cases are increased, the number of deaths also increase. Because of that, the deaths that we are reporting also increase.
In other developments, a COVID-19 patient receiving treatment at the Homagama hospital had escaped yesterday during the morning. Health authorities managed to track down the escapee and re-hospitalize him, but the patient in question had escaped once again at around 3 p.m. yesterday. Following this, hospital police found the suspect from a house located 500 meters away from the hospital and readmitted the patient. Meanwhile, the country's number of COVID-19 recoveries rose by 1,352 today, taking the overall tally to 117,220. As such, the total number of active COVID-19 cases in Sri Lanka currently stand at 19,944.
කාලගුණය කොහොමුණත් රයිනෝ නං වාලට සේෆ් තමයි මුළු ගෙදරම. අමුතු කේක් එක තියාරා.
කියලා හැදෙවෝ වගේ.
Now, the Presidential Task Force for Economic Revival and Poverty Alleviation has set up emergency call centres at district level to resolve issues faced by the people during the travel-restricted period. Various sections of the society, especially farmers, were faced with great difficulties amid the movement restrictions, which will be in place until Monday.
In a bid to tackle the spread of the novel coronavirus, the government imposed island-wide travel restrictions from Thursday night until Monday the 17th. 20,000 police personnel were deployed to ensure that people did not venture out into the society on whims and fancies. At least until Monday the 17th, people are not allowed to leave their homes. From the 17th, however, people can move about with the last digit on the NIC determining which day a person is allowed out. But that too is not effective until Monday. As for essential service providers, they are exempted from travel restrictions and are allowed to travel, ensuring that essential services are provided despite the countrywide movement restriction. In that vein, Minister of Trade Dr. Bandula Gunawardena instructed relevant departments today to permit the reopening of wholesale shops in Peta for trade from tomorrow, following an inspection tour.
දිගටම කිව්ව රජයක් විදියට මෙහෙම සම්පූර්ණයෙන් වහපුවාම මේ රටේ ගොවියෝ කර්මාන්තකරුවෝ සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාව අන්ත පීඩනයකට පත් වෙනවා කියලා කිව්වා. කියන්නත් ඔබතුමාලා කිව්වේ මේක වහන්න කියලා. ඉතින් වැහුවෙන් පස්සේ ඇති වෙන මේ ප්‍රශ්න විසඳ ගන්න ඕනේ. දැන් මේ කරේත් එක විසඳුම් මාර්ගයක්. හෙට දිනේදී ලංකාවේ පුරාම ඉන්න මේ තොග ප්‍රවාහනය කරන වෙළඳ ව්‍යාපාර ආයතනවලට ඒ ප්‍රදේශයෙන් බලපත්‍රයක් ලබාගෙන මේ පිටකොටුවේ තොග වෙළඳ පොලෙන් තොග වශයෙන් පමණක් අරන් යන්න පුළුවන්. සිල්ලර වෙළඳාම සඳහා කිසිසේත් විවෘත වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
වෙළඳසැල් විවෘත කිරීමට හෙට දවසේ සීමා කිරීම එහෙමමයි සමුද පාන්දර 4 වෙනකන්. නමුත් ජංගම වෙළඳ රට මගින් ඒ ගම් මට්ටමට ගිහින් බෙදා හැරීම වගේ දේවල් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඊට පස්සේ සමුදා අලුයම 4න් පස්සේ Tamanට ඒ වෙළඳ කටයුතු සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කරන තොග ඒ තබා ගැනීමට හැකියාව ලැබෙනවා මේ තුලින්.
Although the wholesale markets are kept open for trade, vendors continue to complain a drop in sales due to the lack of traders coming from other parts of the country. Yesterday, vendors at the Paliagoda fish market complained that not enough wholesalers who usually come from other parts of the island are frequenting the market. However, with that situation being rectified today, trade bounced back to normal. Meanwhile, due to the travel restrictions in place, yesterday's trade at the Manning market saw a decline. The situation at the market today was not so different from that of yesterday's, as vendors continued to lament the lack of outstation wholesaler presence there. Meanwhile, it was a role reversal for vegetable farmers at the Katugastara Economic Centre, as they were unable to sell their produce as there weren't any traders to purchase their goods. In Megoda, the dedicated economic centre which operates at night was reopened for trade last night, and due to the lack of consumers, vendors decided to distribute their produce free of charge. Upon hearing the news, the area residents showed no regard for the movement restrictions in place as they flocked to the economic centre to get their hands on the free bag of vegetables. On a separate development, the Presidential Task Force for Economic Revival and Poverty Alleviation has set up emergency call centres at district level to resolve issues faced by people during the travel-restricted period. People can log on to www.AdaDerana.lk to obtain the contact numbers of the emergency call centres established in each district.
Now then, State Minister of Primary Healthcare, Epidemics and COVID Disease Control, Sudarshini Fernandopoulos, reassures that the government is determined to inoculate the targeted 13 million population in the country by any means necessary. At a time when developing nations like Sri Lanka are struggling to vaccinate their at-risk groups, wealthier countries are attempting to vaccinate their younger populations.
In spite of the travel restrictions in place, the government decided to continue the vaccination drive in the Western Province, worst hit by the third wave of COVID-19. The program was worked off today as well. 3,000 people residing in 2 Grama Niladhari divisions of Gorakana in Panadura received their jab against COVID-19 today. Meanwhile, just as yesterday, the inoculation program was conducted at the office of the Medical Officer of Health in Pugoda. In Polonnaruwa, 165 police officers of the district were administered with the vaccine. With Colombo continuing to report the highest daily COVID caseload on a regular basis, a vaccination program was also worked off for the residents of the estates in Colombo.
We are vaccinating 6,500 people today in the Colombo municipality area with the Sinopharm vaccine. There are walk-in stations and there are stations that you can book your slot online and come. So the walk-in stations would accommodate about 1,000 people per day. There are 5 such stations, and the online channeling system is for fast-track online system where they can reserve their spot and come online and get their vaccination done. Vaccinations will continue tomorrow, even on Sunday, at the same places in the city of Colombo.
Meanwhile, responding to media, State Minister of Primary Healthcare, Epidemics and COVID Disease Control, Sudarshini Fernandopulle, stated that the government is determined to vaccinate the targeted population by any means necessary.
ලෝකෙ කොහෙන් හරි වැක්සින් ටික ගේන්න අපි ඒ සියලුම කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා. ඒ වගේම තමයි ඇස්ට්‍රාසෙනිකා එකේ අපිට ලක්ෂ 6ක හිඟයක් තියෙනවා. ඒ වෙනකොට පුද්ගලිකාංශයටත් කියලා තියෙනවා අපිට පුළුවන් නම් මිලියන 10ක් අපිට හොයලා දෙන්න කියලා. මොකද විශේෂයෙන්ම අවුරුදු 60ට වැඩි අයට ඇස්ට්‍රාසෙනිකා තමයි ඉතාමත් යෝග්‍ය. එන්නත ගත්තත් රෝගය හැදෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි මරණයට පත් වෙන අවදානම අඩුයි. හැබැයි ඉතින් මේ මාස්ක් එක නම් මුව ආවරණය නම් ගලවන්න හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ තව අවුරුදු ගණනාවක්.
To date, 925,242 people have received the first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and 241,522 people among them have been completely vaccinated, meaning they have received both first and second doses of the jab. Meanwhile, with 61,882 people being given the Sinopharm vaccine yesterday, a total of 276,762 people have received the first dose from the China-manufactured jab so far. As for the Sputnik V vaccine, a total of 14,673 people have been given its first dose. Following the outbreak of the highly contagious novel coronavirus, doctors suggested vaccines to be the most effective solution to safeguard the lives of the public. With that, the government set a target of vaccinating 13 million people in the country while putting a mechanism in place to achieve the set target. Just like many other countries, Sri Lanka too placed its hopes on the global pharmacy India, placing an order with the Serum Institute to provide a batch of 10 million Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine doses. However, from the ordered vaccines, India could only provide the island with 500,000 doses, enough to fully vaccinate just 250,000 people of the targeted population. This is due to the United States imposing restrictions on exporting required raw materials to make the vaccine, as well as the unprecedented surge in the number of infections in India, resulting in a domestic vaccine shortage. Then again, the World Health Organization also pledged to provide the island with enough vaccines to inoculate 20% of the targeted population, which would translate to 8.4 million doses. From that, Sri Lanka received just 264,000 doses. All in all, there aren't vaccines to be bought or for the WHO to procure. The reasons for the shortage is simply vaccine hoarding by rich countries. And now they are even vaccinating low-risk groups, depriving poorer countries much-needed vaccines for their people at most risk.
In January, I spoke about the potential unfolding of a moral catastrophe. Unfortunately, we're now witnessing this play out. In a handful of rich countries, which bought up the majority of the vaccine supply, lower risk groups are now being vaccinated. I understand why some countries want to vaccinate their children and adolescents, but right now I urge them to reconsider and to instead donate vaccines to COVAX.
Now, the island experienced adverse weather for a third consecutive day due to cyclone Tauktae making its way to Gujarat in India. As a result, many areas in the country, predominantly in the western and southern provinces, are inundated. What's more, Centre for Disaster Management also confirmed the death of 4 persons. The prevailing weather situation has affected over 11,000 families so far.
Sri Lanka's inclement weather conditions experienced over the past few days have been a result of a low-pressure zone that had developed over the southeast Arabian Sea on Thursday morning. The low-pressure zone has since developed into a cyclone dubbed as Tauktae and is currently moving towards Gujarat in India. As a result of this natural phenomenon, heavy showers and gusty winds have led to overflowing of the rivers Kalani, Ging, Nilvala, as well as the Mahoya and Nattana Golugoya. Many low-lying areas in Kalaniya have been inundated due to heavy rains. The worst affected areas are Paliyagoda, Kalaniya, Kohilavatta and Biyagama. Meanwhile, due to the river Ging overflowing, several areas in the Gaul district including Nelluwa and Tavalama are underwater. The roads from Baddegama to the areas of Udugama, Dodangoda and Hikkaduwa were also flooded. Elsewhere, with river Kukuleganga overflowing due to heavy rains in the Kaluthara district, several places and roads in the Bulat Sinhala area were inundated. In other developments, the Sri Lanka Air Force launched a special operation to monitor and rescue people affected in the flood-ridden areas of the western and southern provinces. In the meantime, according to figures released by the Disaster Management Centre, 4 persons had died due to the current inclement weather conditions. Further, a total of 42,252 persons from 11,074 families have been affected due to the unfavourable weather conditions. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology warned naval and fishing communities not to venture in the sea areas extending from Kankasanture to Colombo via Mannar due to the possibility of wind speeds up to 60 to 70 kilometers per hour.
Now, a member of the New South Wales Assembly in Australia has urged the state's leaders to recognise an alleged Tamil genocide in Sri Lanka as done by the Ontario Legislative Assembly in Canada. By passing the Tamil Genocide Education Week Act, the Ontario Assembly last week contradicted the official position of the Government of Canada. Former Commissioner of Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka, Dr. Pratibha Mahanamaheva, believes that the objective of such moves is to give legitimacy to the claim that genocide happened in Sri Lanka so that then it could be taken before the United Nations Human Rights Council.
On the 6th of May, the Ontario Legislative Assembly in Canada passed a bill which recognises that there was genocide against Tamil people in Sri Lanka, which is a finding not made anywhere else in the world. The Bill 104, the Tamil Genocide Education Week Act, sees May 11th to the 18th as a week in which Ontarians are encouraged to educate themselves about and to maintain their awareness of the Tamil genocide and other genocides that have occurred in the world history. In the aftermath of the bill's passing on the 10th of May, the Sri Lankan government opposed the move made by the Ontario Legislative Assembly. Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena met with the Canada High Commissioner David McKinnon and explained that the Ontario Legislative Assembly makes a finding that genocide has taken place in Sri Lanka, contradicting the official position of the Government of Canada, which had confirmed that it has not made a finding that there was a genocide in Sri Lanka. He sought immediate intervention of the Canadian government to stop royal assent by Governor of Ontario to the bill in question. But on Thursday the 13th, a call for action similar to that of Canada's Ontario Legislative Assembly was made at the New South Wales Legislative Assembly in Australia. A member of the Assembly, Dr. Hugh McDermott, called on both the Premier and Opposition Leader in New South Wales to follow the lead of Ontario in recognising Sri Lanka's genocide against Tamils and to refer the perpetrators to the International Criminal Court. In his statement, McDermott says that as Sri Lanka is not a party to the Rome Statute, the referral to the International Criminal Court must receive unanimous support from all UN Security Council members. Could there be a trend emerging that LTTE terrorist sympathisers who form the diaspora are twisting the arms of local political chieftains in foreign countries into misguidedly recognising an unproven genocide in Sri Lanka?
Now these transnational LTT supporting government which is running in Denmark, they are pressurizing their members in European countries to come up with bills and laws which recognize that Sri Lanka committed Tamil genocide and Northern East in the war period. So this is one trend where Ontario bill was present. What they are trying to do now, they are actually pressurizing and they go beyond their jurisdiction where that a country has to be consulted first. And this is again the sovereignty of the country. They can't pass bills like that. Actually, what their objective is to show that individual countries are accepting genocide occurred in Sri Lanka, and finally it will come to the Human Rights Council session. So now, not only New South Wales, this can go around Europe. This is alarming wake-up call for the foreign ministry. What they can do, they can start the lobby work. Even Sri Lanka, we have ambassadors representing those countries. Call them to the foreign ministry and you can get the clarification and show our objection and why they are doing like this. Continuous lobby work should be done. We have other diplomatic ways we can handle this. Non-aligned movement is one, and United Nations Human Rights Council, we have a permanent representative. So those are some of the legal weapons we can use. This may give another bad signal for the other countries, those who are facing issues, and also countries who love Sri Lanka. We should get together and raise our voice.
Attorney General Dappula de Oliveira has informed the public that he is unable to present indictments against the conspirators and abettors of the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attacks within his tenure, as the probes of the Criminal Investigation Department are incomplete. His coordinating officer, State Counsel Nishara Jayaratna, confirmed this to AdaDerana today. Earlier today, in a letter directed to Inspector General of Police, the Attorney General sought confirmation of evidence against 42 suspects of Category A of the Easter Sunday terror attacks. He further sought clarification on any pending investigations, as probes into 5 of the suspects are incomplete. Dappula de Oliveira's term in office as the Attorney General is expected to come to an end this month. He was sworn in on the 10th of May in 2019 before then President Maithripala Sirisena. Bloomberg has given a stellar account of Sri Lankan government bonds, saying the country's debt is leading gains in Asian dollar bonds this year. It says that investors bet that the island will avoid defaulting on its short-term notes with the help of a Chinese funding facility. While quoting an Italian investment manager, it added the bonds will continue to offer attractive yields even if most of the gains have already been made. A Bloomberg Barclays index shows that the Sri Lankan notes have returned 15% this quarter, extending year-to-date gains to 25%, which is the best performance for any Asian nation's US currency debt in 2021, after losing 31% last year, the worst showing in the region. Sri Lanka received a $1.5 billion currency swap line from China in March that eased fears over the government's ability to pay its debt. Bloomberg says that Sri Lanka has at least $2.5 billion of dollar notes maturing before the end of July 2022, including a $1 billion bond due in a little over 2 months. The yield on that debt security, it says, is indicated around 16%, while a July 2022 note offers 20%. Now then, cricketers of the national side are offered contracts under the new criteria for the first time, where the player performance is a key element in the agreement. It is also reported that the annual payment of players have been slashed by about 35% in comparison to the player contracts of the past.
The contracts of Sri Lanka's national cricket team this time around are based on player performances. It is reported that the player performances during the period from the 1st of January in 2019 to the 31st of January in 2021 were taken into consideration across Test, One-Day International and 2020 formats of the game. What's more, the players have also been graded on physical fitness, professionalism, leadership qualities and future potential. As such, it has been decided to award a 12-month contract for players across 12 groups coming under 4 grades. The yearly salary falls between $25,000 to $100,000, and Dhananjay De Silva and Niroshan Dickwella are given top-grade contracts. Other than Dhananjay De Silva and Dickwella, contracts are also offered to Kusal Pereira, Angelo Matthews, Kusal Mendis, Dimut Karunaratne, Suranga Lakmal, Dasun Shanaka, Vanidu Hasaranga, Lasit Ambuldeniya, Pathum Nishanka, Lahiru Tirimanna, Dushmanta Chamira, Kasun Rajita, Dinesh Chandimal, Lakshan Sanakan, Vishwa Fernando, Isuru Udana, Oshada Fernando, Ramesh Mendis, Lahiru Kumara, Danushka Gunatilaka, Ashen Bandara and Akila Dhananjaya. Avishka Fernando and Nuan Pradeep, however, have not been offered a contract. Meanwhile, it is also reported that the players are yet to ink the agreements, and a certain group of players have sought an explanation from the authorities on the criteria used to draft the relevant contracts.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.